Amazing. Can I ask maybe for a second hand from someone in our audience if you can see the Facebook live stream working? That would be fantastic to see.
Okay.
Thank you everyone for your help.
I think I can confirm with that. It's working.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Thank you for confirming.
It's working.
Oh, you're amazing. Thank you, Destiny, for helping me there. Amazing. Okay, I'm just going to wait 2 more minutes and then we can start and hopefully people can join. I expected a couple more, but maybe people will join as we go. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you very much. It's great to see everyone. I'm sure you will come with lots of questions. Please, please, please. Our speakers are here to share their insights. Then they don't bite, I promise. Okay, I don't think the number of participants has changed too much, so I'm going to get started and hopefully some people will join as we go. I know also this is our first Dialogue On event back for a couple of months, so thank you all. We're very excited to see everyone. My name's Naomi. I work as the social media and partnership coordinator here at ODIF. Unfortunately, I'm afraid Susanna can't make it today, but hopefully she should be joining towards the second half. I know most of you know her face, but it's lovely to have the opportunity also to meet you all for this event here. Okay, so welcome to our June event on international cooperation, hosted by ODIF. Today's event is a really exciting return of our monthly series. As I mentioned, we've had a couple of months off for a chance to focus on our Open Dialogues on Climate Change project. I'm sure some of you that are familiar with our foundation have heard it before. It's fantastic, but it has taken a little bit to set up and get all our teams supported. So it's nice to have a monthly event like this back up and running. If you follow ODIF's progress already, thank you so much for your support. It means that we can keep running dialogues like this. And if you're new, welcome. It's a great platform to discuss social issues, and we really hope to inspire you today with some of the information that our speakers can share and hopefully some of the experiences that you all guys are willing to share with each other. We really encourage you to check out our website at Open Dialogues International Foundation and subscribe to our social media and newsletter. And please always reach out to us at contact@open-dialogues.org.uk is on our website as well. But we are always happy to communicate and chat with you if you have any suggestions for these dialogue events or further. Okay, so let's get started then. Our title for today is Dialogue on International Cooperation. I think this is a really hot topic at both the local, the national, and the international level, particularly. Following SP60 in Bonn earlier this month, where a couple of our speakers, and I'm sure some of our audience have experience with, increasingly we're seeing parties and countries moving potentially away from each other rather than towards, and this is a concerning issue among a lot of people, particularly with the outcome of SP60. So today, we want to show the importance of having dialogue on this topic and discuss some of the challenges facing international cooperation and come up with hopefully some ways that we as a group can achieve more inclusive policies and increase the success of international cooperation. This series is run by Open Dialogues International Foundation. As I've mentioned, we're an international foundation founded in January 2022. We work on a range of social issues through education and awareness activities, such as this Dialogue On event. And our main focus is on promoting conversation and generating solutions. Okay, after a very, very brief introduction from me and a bit of a whistle-stop tour in a couple of minutes, I want to introduce our speakers for today. So the setup of the Dialogue On will be that our speakers will each share roughly 10 minutes maximum of insights from their own personal experience, their backgrounds. And then afterwards, I will have the chance to open up the floor. I mentioned, I'm afraid it's only me managing this event, so we might have to cut the meeting short at something like 45 minutes to an hour. So I won't keep you all for your evenings or your mornings or where it is at your time of day. But yeah, let's get into it. So our first speaker is Maciel Cairo. She's a climate change adaptation analyst with the National Council on Climate Change, CDM public. I think I got that right. Correct me if I'm wrong. She has over 6 years experience advocating for public policies to enhance climate resilience and reduce vulnerability. Our second speaker is Destiny Afu, but I will come to introduce him in a later chance. Perhaps, Maciel, you could give a chance to sort of give yourself an introduction. I've given you 2 lines, but maybe you could share some of your background, where you've come from. We were talking about it briefly before the call. And then, yeah, go ahead. You've got 10 minutes. Are you able to unmute yourself, I think? Wait 1 second.
Okay.
I'm struggling to hear you.
Am I on? Can everyone hear me? Okay, good, great. Okay, so now thank you so much. I really appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to speak on this type of event. I'm actually very excited to see that on a Saturday, people are allocating time to join this type of discussion. And I think it's very important that we all pay attention to what it's always being discussed in international forums, because it eventually does impact us, whether negatively or positively, in our local respective areas. So a little bit further about me, as you were saying, I've been working in climate change for 7 years now, 6 years as an adaptation analyst, and very grateful for the formation that I've had. As I was telling you, I've had different trainings to build capacity, not only to understand the science of climate change, but also to understand the diplomacy implications, how the climate negotiations work, and understanding the different agenda items, the constituted bodies, etc. A little bit further about myself, the agenda item that I follow in the scope of the negotiations of the convention is action for climate empowerment. And as many of you know, or if you guys don't know, international cooperation is actually one of the elements of action for climate empowerment, alongside with training, education, raising awareness, public participation, and access to information. So this is a matter that is very dear to me, because I also have to work every day to integrate those elements into the climate change project that I follow up on in the office. But I also, in the scope of the negotiations, I am the G77 coordinator for Action for Climate Empowerment. It's a very humbling position that allows me to work very closely with the different delegates and try to understand the different realities that they have. So I'm really grateful to you guys for giving me the invitation, because again, this is the type of things that I like to do, and I really like to work closely with people who are eager to work at their area, whether it is a local, national, or subnational impact. So a little bit about international cooperation. I think that this is a matter that we all have heard and are interested in. So international cooperation is any voluntary help that comes from a state, that be a country, a government, an NGO, and a fund, to any specific target. And this can get the collaboration. It could be directly from one country or entity to another, or it could be provided via another entity, like such, for example, like an NGO. And so we have a few types of international cooperation in that sense. I will pull up my notes. I do want to provide a disclaimer, and it is that I don't have a PowerPoint, because I do want to keep this like as a dialogue, as a conversation moving forward. And I will prepare a PowerPoint on these topics after we discuss. So if there's also any relevant key aspects that the participants want to hear about, or that want to get into a little bit more depth, they can provide them to you, Naomi, and then you can send them to me, and I'll make sure to integrate them in the document that I'll prepare. So going back to the sources of international cooperation funding, we have a few types. We have, for example, bilateral cooperation. So bilateral cooperation is the one that comes between the public administrations of the partner country and then the receiving country or any other involved stakeholders that are intended to get this cooperation. This can be done on the base of agreement or any memorandum of understandings that are signed, and this most constitute like the general frame that regulates the resources that are granted by the diplomatic missions, by the aid in technical support, or by the agencies or cooperating instances that coordinate the support. Then we have the multilateral cooperation, which is the one that is channeled through international entities. And this is a way of cooperation where like active stakeholders, that those that receive the funding, but also the ones that are offering the funding, they share like goals, or they share objectives, like they share a common ground on what it is that they are looking for with this specific cooperation, whether it be in liquidity, so that would be funding, or it would be in technical support, like hiring a specific advisor to implement or to develop a strategy to then implement, so and so, for example. In this sense, this could be somewhat cataloged, not in a very limitation way. We have two ways of multilateral cooperation. And so we have the one that comes through multilateral organisms, and then we have the private cooperation, which is for development. And then we have the regional cooperation, which is the international cooperation that benefits a specific group of countries because of the name, it's a regional cooperation. And what this does is that this gets the scope of the similarities of the countries of any given demographic similarity, like a scope. Like, for example, in the Caribbean, we have the CARICOM, which is the Caribbean community. And then we also have like the CARIFORUM countries, which is a wider range of countries. And so we tend to have projects through cooperation that are aimed at this specific demographics within the Caribbean. And so even when within the scope of CARICOM and CARIFORUM, we could have the other types of cooperation, we also normally have like the regional scope of the cooperation, because what this does is that it tries to enforce not only the synergies and the integration links that already exist in the countries, but also it advocates for creating like networks that can work through the countries based on their similarities and then enhance one with the other. I don't understand if that makes a lot of sense. My notes are in Spanish, so I'm trying to translate as I go. So it might sound a little rusty. So we also have different type of cooperations that will vary from countries or regions that offer the resources. For example, we have North-South cooperation, which is the one that we have between countries that have a higher rent income and countries that have a lower rent income. So the North would be the ones with the higher rent income, and the South would be the lower rent income. And then that way, this cooperation, what would happen is that the North would provide resourcing or technical support to then support the efforts of development that are being taken place in the South countries. And then we have also South-South cooperation, which is the one that happens between countries from similar type of rental income, especially for places that have medium rent income, which is, for example, the case of some countries in South America, we could use as an example. And this type of cooperation normally happens in specific sectors where the cooperating country has like success stories has lessons learned, and then that way they can provide them to the other country so that a specific sector and a specific area can receive and enhance their capacity based on specific needs that they might have. One example that we have of North-South cooperation that perhaps I could share with you guys is, for example, the Dominican Republic, which is where I'm from. We have an ACE strategy, which is outdated because it predates the concept of ACE. But with this strategy, because we were the first in the region to do something like that, then we were able to help other countries through our experience in how they could identify the best way of developing their ACE strategy and implement the ACE strategy. So that's one example that I can provide. And then we have the triangle cooperation, which normally is a combination of North, South, and South, South. And what would happen in this type of cooperation, we also had one with the government of France, I think it's that we had, and it was based on electric mobility. And so what would happen in this case is that normally the higher rent income country would finance the cooperation way, we could call it. And then that it's partnered with a country of lower rent income. And normally this would provide the technical components and then for the execution to take place of the cooperation for the benefit of the third country, which would be a country with like a similar rent income. And I think lastly, I would like to mention the decentralized cooperation mechanism. And those are all of the international cooperation actions that are taking place or that are promoted through local government, through regional entities on a more direct manner without having to do with the central governments or the central states or multilateral organisms. Am I okay on time for this? Okay. And so
yes, maybe 5 minutes or so, but you're perfect.
Okay,
Like,
okay.
half past.
Okay, and so why is it so relevant for us to discuss international cooperation? Well, as we see, we have different modalities of international cooperation, and all of the international cooperation, they have obviously their own rules and specific modalities on how they work. What's interesting is to find what is the best route that you can take. The best route normally, at least when I speak on the perspective of a developing country, normally the best route would be the easiest route for you to access something. But also in the process of you trying to get to implement a specific project, it's important to be in the lookout for those parties or entities that can provide already their lessons learned. At least that's the recommendation that I always give, already the lessons learned, no matter if they are in the scope of the specific cooperation that you're trying to channel. So if you have a bilateral cooperation with a country, but you know that there is another country that has had a success story implementing what you are already working for, then perhaps it would be a good idea to invite them to the table, at least to have a conversation, and then try to bilaterally have some type of South-South cooperation, and that way you can strengthen synergies between the states. It's important to talk about international cooperation in the scope also of ACE, which again is the main focus of the work that I do in day-to-day, because many governments, but also like relevant stakeholders, different entities, they need access and they need the financial expertise to understand not only climate change, but how can ACE help advance the climate change agenda. But they also need financial support so that entities, parties, etc., they can develop their own not only climate change strategies, but also their own programs. And climate change programs, because it's a cross-cutting issue, they can range through a variety of sectors that they can be implemented. So it's really important when we talk about climate change to keep somewhat of the focus into the international cooperation aspect because of what I mentioned. The subject of international cooperation is very rich. We don't need to focus necessarily in the financial aspect. We can also have the silver lining of focusing in the technical aspect, but enriching and enhancing the collaboration and the goodwill of cooperation between parties will always play a key role, no matter the type of cooperation that you choose, because you can also have cooperation, for example, to sharing technologies and transferring technologies, but then you will also need to have training for the country that is receiving the technology being transferred. But then you also need to raise awareness to make sure that this specific thing is important. And then when we speak on that aspect, then we will discuss international cooperation from the lens of just transition, which is also a very important aspect in the scope of climate change, right? So how can you implement just transition? How can you move forward? And international cooperation will always support that, because there's always somewhere something happening that you can learn from. So I think it's important that within the scope of international cooperation, we look beyond of what it is exactly that we want, and then we can find other things that can emanate from these aspects that we are looking for specifically. So I don't know if maybe I should stop there, Naomi.
That would be perfect. Thank you so much for your
Because I
insight.
talk a little fast. So if someone missed anything I said, I will try to repeat myself if you have any questions. But again, if you have any specific things that you would like to see, I will include them in the presentation.
Amazing. We also send out a summary of our event on our social media and also to the newsletter. So for anyone that has missed a part of Maciel's presentation, we send a sort of abridged version of a transcript. So you can also have a written version if, for example, you're not able to join this call, or you're streaming us live on Facebook, or even you've missed this event and you're watching it in hindsight. Thank you so much for your presentation, Maciel. It was incredibly powerful and a very good introduction to this whole topic that we're going to be discussing today. Okay, I'd now like to introduce our second speaker of our event, which is Destiny Afu. He is an award-winning humanitarian and policy analyst, and actually the president and founder of the Afu Foundation, which is working in partnership for this event. So we would like to raise awareness of his fantastic cause that works on issues including humanitarian action, leadership, governments, global engagement, foreign policy, and international relations. And I've ticked all the boxes there for our international cooperation today. Okay, Destiny, can I hand over to you? Maybe you can give a better introduction of yourself than I can. Hang on a second, maybe I potentially just lost you there. In the meantime, while I'm waiting for Destiny Afu to just join again for a second, people please write in the chat your questions for Maciel while they're in your brain before we get our next speaker to give a presentation. I'm just going to get in contact with Destiny to see if he is struggling to connect or anything, but thank you for bearing with me here. Oh, fantastic. Thank you everyone for bearing with. I hope you're enjoying the event so far. It's fascinating, and to have the first-hand experience is great. Are you able to hear me there?
Yes. I'm sorry for cutting off abruptly. I had some technical issues. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good now? All good?
Yeah, it's all good. I don't really know what happened, but I think it's good now.
We lost you, but you're back. That's the most important thing.
Okay.
Okay, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and start your presentation, and maybe also introduce your Afu Foundation as well, that would be fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. As you may already know, my name is Destiny Afu. I'm from Cameroon, and I'm the founder of the Afu Foundation. The Afu Foundation is simply a nonprofit that works in areas of humanitarian action, governance, international cooperation, and international relations. So for the past 6 years, shall I say, since 2017, I've been involved in a lot of work concerning actions on humanitarianism. That's reaching out to really vulnerable communities and trying to find out the problems and seeing ways in which we can resolve those issues in a way that's most benefiting to the people. So that's just an aspect of the work I do under humanitarian action. I also work in fields of leadership and governance, providing training and dialogue on public policy around so local politicians can really implement policies which are favorable to the people. And lastly, I also work on international relations and global engagement, which is something of prime importance. Like what we have now, I think it's global engagement and international relations, I think. And for the past 2 years, 3 years, I've been hosting through my organization's dialogues like this. Okay, so what we do is we have to choose an issue which is currently relevant or plaguing the world, maybe global challenges on climate change, on conflict and security. And then we discuss on them and try to find concrete and workable policy solutions in which we can meet them. So basically that's how I work, and that's my foundation. And I'll be, at the end of the meeting, I'll really be happy to connect with anyone from all over the world who is watching, and we can network and partner or something, just as we're partnering on this now. So it's really a great pleasure for me to join you and to share my thoughts. I hope everyone stays keen and, you know, grab a few lessons as we go on. So to come back to the issue of international cooperation, to come back to the theme of our discussion today, I would like to go into what Marcel said. Marcel, I hope I got your name right. Forgive me if I didn't. And I would just like to go directly to the issue of international cooperation. Now, I would like to say most of the times, international cooperation, there's this misconception that international cooperation is the relations only between state actors. And that's a huge misconception, which has to be dealt with. International cooperation has more to do with non-state actors of the civil society and non-governmental organizations like what we are having right now. I believe we cannot have all the problems of the world and put them in the hands of states only to solve them. That's one thing we should note about it. And international cooperation comes to meet the challenges that we face in common, because you would quite agree with me that the world is facing, you know, unprecedented times with a lot of challenges, and governments in particular seem not to know about it, or they are guided by interest, and a lot of inaction is being taken to address them. So the aspect of international cooperation for me lies more within non-state actors. And why is international cooperation important? It is important because most of the challenges we face nowadays are shared. And so we have, in as much as globalization has brought us a lot of opportunities, that's brought us shared challenges too. So the only way we can meet them is through international cooperation, cooperating with each other and finding solutions which can solve the problems. One problem can you hear me? Okay. I had an interruption there. Okay. We can have issues which are facing the global north, and it's affecting the global south. For example, climate change, which Marcel works on so diligently. The global north countries are the highest polluters. But if you have to come to the effects of climate change, it affects mostly the third world countries who have little resources to respond to them. So that's one aspect of one importance of collaborating on issues to solve global challenges, which is all about international cooperation. So, and I would just like to give an overview of some of the challenges we have on international cooperation right now. If you have to look at the world, we have unprecedented effects of climate change. We have economic disparities. We have the wars and security issues, especially in the Middle East and Africa. And, you know, sometimes I sit and I ask myself, how do we resolve all these issues? Governments mostly represent their interest. And most of the times there's a lot of inaction when it concerns these challenges. And the problems just keep going and going and going, and there is no response to it. So I think one of the challenges of international cooperation right now is the rise of nationalism and populism, which is something we have to deal with. And we have an issue amongst nations now where people think their nations are more important than others. And if it's not them, it won't work for anybody else. So this rising movement of nationalism and populism is a huge challenge in galvanizing action on shared issues and on shared global challenges. We also have the proliferation of regional conflicts. For example, we have what is going on in the Middle East now. It's exploding, and all those challenges, all these security challenges is like forming a roadblock for which all these states can cooperate on issues like trade and other issues that are most important that can meet human needs. Lastly, we have challenges on technological advancement. For example, we have these issues on social media, for example, where we have this growing audience who are being misled due to misinformation concerning one state or one party or another. And so people seem to carry that bias wherever they go, right? So those are some of the challenges. For now, what we have in the world for the traditional methods of international relations, we have bodies like the United Nations who have been trying to work on cooperation within nations. We have NATO, we have the World Trade Organizations, but I wouldn't say they are doing a very good job, though it is, I should say, it's quite manageable, because without their existence, I think things will be worse off than now. So with all these bodies we have now, those are just traditional methods, and I think we can delve into a deeper method which involves non-state actors. Like I said, for a long time, we have neglected the issue of international cooperation and put the responsibility on states only, which is a very big misconception. So I think there should be a paradigm shift to include non-state actors the most, NGOs and even businesses involved in multilateral issues. Those are the main actors which should be considered in international relations. Why? Because they go directly to meet the issues of the people involved and surpassing government interest. That's the most important thing. That's the most important thing about it. So I want to get to some pathways in which we can make international relations possible. We can make that possible through global security. That's advancing global security and amidst distrust. We can admit that with all the security challenges going on in the world right now, there's a growing distrust between nations. Just imagine the West and the East, Russia and the US, South Korea, Iran, and all the countries in the West. There's this growing mistrust, but I do have hope, because if during the Cold War and the First World War and the Second World War, all these countries could come together and cooperate and bring an end to all those challenges at that time, I think it is still possible at this moment. And if we have to include, like I said, the factor of non-state actors. Secondly, we can one of the pathways we can cooperate is on climate and natural capital. You know, our global environment is facing unprecedented times when it comes to climate. Like Marcel just mentioned, with the heat wave which is going on I don't know if it's a heat wave or is it too much heat going on in the country. I think one of the pathways which we as non-state actors and even state actors can cooperate on, it's the issue of climate, to advance solutions that address the challenges of climate change. That's one important fact. And thirdly, we can cooperate on emerging technologies. Emerging technologies, I'm talking about AI, which is coming up right now. Okay.
I'm not quite sure what's happened there. Give me a second. Is it all good? Yes.
Yeah, it's good now. I had that.
Okay. Can I give you a 3-minute warning? Is that all good? Maybe finish by 45?
Yeah, sure. I would. So we have, thirdly, we can cooperate on emerging technologies like AI to make sure they have no threat on the future, and we can cooperate to see how to function inclusively with the needs of the people, with the needs of nations and all that. Lastly, we have the pathway of international trade. One of the ways I think is best for nations to cooperate is through international trade, because it kind of dissolves the growing suspicion that exists between nations and all the ideological antagonism that exists between nations. It tries to quell tensions, because I believe when nations do business together, when nations trade together, there is less risk of having conflict. There's less risk of having disagreements which can lead to violent conflict. So in all this, how do we make these pathways more efficient? And there's one important factor to that, that's inclusivity. Inclusivity is the watchword. Like I said before, if you have to look at the global system right now, the global north cooperates more to themselves. And most of the times the global south is being neglected, which has led to organizations like BRICS now coming up and saying, okay, enough to this US dominance and enough to Western dominance. So it's because the inclusivity in all the aspects of global cooperation were absent. Right from the United Nations, right from the World Trade Organizations, and right from every multilateral organizations we see, we find a group of people who have been misrepresented. No, not misrepresented, underrepresented in these issues. Why? Because, should I say, they don't have the resources to meet what is being called for. So if we have to really get international cooperation working, we should consider the aspect of inclusivity and move from the aspect of state actors only to the factor of non-state actors. So I think I'll end my presentation there, and I'm ready to take any questions when they come around. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I like a lot how you and Marcel's presentation approach this from very different angles based on your background. And I think, as you said, inclusivity is the word of the word of the generations. It's the word of the moment at the time. It's important to have both of those perspectives shared on a webinar such as this. Okay, so thank you both of our speakers for sharing their insights. I now want to open the floor to the dialogue part of this event today. I'm hoping that people can share some of their background, share some of their experiences, either if they themselves have been involved in international cooperation, or if you yourself have a question for one of our speakers here. I've seen Lucy. I've seen you've asked a couple of questions in the chat. If you want to maybe unmute yourself, you're welcome to ask them to the speakers face themselves. If I can be heard. Let's see how we go. If not, I myself have plenty of questions, so that's not an issue. But it's nice to get your guys' insights here. Lucy, can you hear me there?
Yes, I can. Good evening. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Do you want to maybe introduce yourself, say your background, and then go ahead to ask your questions or share your insights?
Of course, yeah. Okay, my name is Lucy Wanjiru. I'm a climate change officer from Kenya. I work for the county government of Nyeri. Just a little bit about the inclusivity aspect. In our country, we have the Financing Locally Led Climate Action Program, which is advocating for inclusivity in all levels. It majorly focuses on the community at the grassroots level, and it ensures that the people living with disabilities, the children, the youth, the women are all involved during the project implementation, decision making, and such stuff. Onto my first question. I wanted to know what's the role of the non-state actors when it comes to the fight against climate change, and how well can the non-state actors cooperate with the state actors, and maybe have a way forward in the fight toward the effects of climate change. The last one, I would like also to know if there are any funding opportunities for the African students who may want to have their studies in other countries that is outside Africa, and maybe when you have any conferences, you can also advertise in your platform so that you can get to apply and attend either in person or virtually. Thank you.
Thank you for your question there. To summarize, I hear a question on the role of non-state actors in the fight against climate change, and then how these non-state actors can cooperate with state actors as well, to ensure inclusivity and a just transition and beyond. Maybe do either of the speakers want to take one of them, or does anyone in our audience want to share their insights in response to the questions? Maybe Destiny, you seem quite suitable for this question.
Okay, I think I'll get to a quick response with that. I do have a background in business management. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. And I do know that for a state to grow economically, you have to move investment from public spending to private spending. It is no more state public spending that drives economies, it's private spending. that is the people, local entrepreneurs who drive the economy. I think we can move this aspect to address the issue of climate change. The role of states today should be more about allocating resources and challenging investment. That should be the role of states. How does it come to play in this question of non-state actors and state actors working together to address climate change? What states can do in this issue is the issue that they allocate the investment, the resources needed for non-state actors to use on whatever initiative they are taking to address the problem of climate change. Because I can tell you that we have hundreds and thousands of non-state actors who are eager, to meet the challenges of their society, especially climate change. But what is happening is they are short of the resources. They are very short of the resources, and states do not have do not have like a database, should I say database? They are short of the projects to implement, because of their interest with other nations, and because they mainly don't work on the grassroots level. But if states can allocate investments and allocate resources at a grassroots level to these non-state actors, I think that would be a very, very efficient way to collaborate and to cooperate in addressing, especially the issue of climate change and other challenges, including peace and security and community development.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your answer. Marcia, do you also have an insight on maybe from the more state perspective here? How can we start to cooperate with a more diverse range of parties?
Yeah.
And in some ways, maybe even to push the question a bit further, how can we cooperate with things like observers at COP events?
Well, in the sense of cooperating or enhancing collaboration with non-state stakeholders, one experience that we have in the Dominican Republic is that we always advocate for private and public sector agreements. For example, in the council, we have an agreement with one NGO, and what they focus is on, it's called repurposing textiles. So what they'll do is that they'll take the remaining scraps from big factories, and they'll employ local people, not only women, they'll employ local people. They like to look for example, women who are unemployed or who have more than one child that they need to provide to, people that might have disabilities, etc. And so what they do is that they give them a job at trying to repurpose all this textile and our scraps from factories in the eastern region of the country. And so we have a specific area in the east where we have big factories for large scale productions of uniforms and cleaning cloth, etc. And so they'll take those scraps that would go to a landfill, and they'll take that and then they'll make garments with that, they'll make clothing with that, they'll repurpose it into very different things, they make aprons with that, etc. And so what the partnership is about is that they are the NGO and they have their operations and all this stuff, but we as a government entity, what we do is that we make sure that these people are constantly having their capacity enhanced through training with the focus on climate change, and for them to understand why this work is relevant, how does this contribute to water safety, why having this type of job would contribute to their food security, why is it relevant to be mindful of the consumption, etc. All of those aspects. So that's one way that we are moving forward with inclusivity, but also finding alternate jobs, but also contributing to reducing whatever waste is going to the landfill and so forth. So always trying to reach out, because as a state entity, they came to us and they had the plan, they had the proposal. My advice would be, if you want to participate, try to have outlined what is your reach, what is the scope, and then try to work with any governmental entity that you see that has for example, at least here in our webpage, we need to have our yearly operation plan, because it's required by law, all entities, they need to publish their operational plan, right? And so if you see that there is a specific activity, like a specific product that this public entity has to move forward, and then you have something that aligns with that, you can reach out to them and try to work with them to make sure that this that they already have as a goal in their yearly operation plan can then intersect with what you can bring to the table, and then you can work together with that. Like that would be some of the advice that I would be giving.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I hope that answered your question, Lucy. Does anyone else have any insights or comments they want to share in response to that? Please just unmute yourself and sort of say hello. I'll give it a second, but otherwise I have there's plenty of other questions we can ask. Let's see, I think maybe everyone's all right there. I saw a question earlier in the chat, actually. Let me find it 1 second. From Theri Michael. I hope I said your name right there. I saw a question about capacity building for youth and young people to help advance dialogue and raise the voice of sort of younger international cooperation voices here. Did you have any more insights there, Theri Michael, on your question, or? Okay, maybe can our speakers then, do you have any insights into capacity building for young people in international cooperation? I know Go.
I wanted to ask about the question about the training for the students. I know that the Climate Reality Project might have a few modalities that can benefit. I know that they normally have they have like a program that is aimed to train like youth and prepare them for negotiations. I'm not, I'll look on the webpage and see what I can share, but I know that the Climate Reality Project and the Young Negotiator program, they have presence in Africa because they have helped train African delegates and prepare them for negotiations, SB or COP. Because I've met a few people who have participated in this project. So this might be, okay, let me look for it. And then I'll just share the link right here.
Similar, actually. I met someone also at an SB60 event that talked about sort of training.
And that would be, that would be a good way.
If we find it afterwards, we can always get in contact with you, Lucy, later and give you the name of that, perhaps. Marcial, if you find it, you can always get in contact with us, and we can forward that information on if needed. Thank you so much. Oh, fantastic. Thank you. That's amazing. It's in the chat for anyone that wanted to know.
Yeah, there. There's also normally a fellow that is, but I don't know if it's running this year. Let me see. This wouldn't be for Africa, I think, because it's for AOSIS, but normally there is also a yearly or like 18-month fellow that AOSIS has in the UN at New York, and it's a very good training program. So let me see if I can look it up and also share that, because it is also aimed at youth. I'll look it up. You can continue. I'm just trying to.
Okay, thank you. Amazing. Theri Michael, I see you're unmuted there. If I've said your name right, would you like to go ahead and ask your question? Or share your insights and maybe give an introduction if you can hear me? Okay, no, that's completely all right. Don't worry. Sorry, I've just seen a message in response on the chat saying no, he's all right. But maybe we could return to that question that I asked before about youth involvement in cooperation, in international cooperation, and how we mentioned capacity building briefly beforehand. How can we enhance these capacity building programs to help create more open and inclusive dialogue with sort of everyone's voices included here? Maybe while Marcial, you're searching for that program, Destiny, did you want to give your input here?
Okay, on the question, I think one way to advance capacity building for youths, it's about hosting fellowships. I'll give you an example of, excuse me. I'll just give you an example. Well, it was not on the issue of climate change. I've had the opportunity to work with the African Union and the German Cooperation, GIZ, yeah, on a project of the African Union called the Interfaith Dialogue on Violent Extremism, Interfaith Dialogue on Violent Extremism. And basically the activities we had to do was attend an international intercontinental youth forum that was in Addis Ababa. And lastly, we had a training of trainer session that was in Senegal, which we had issues of capacity building amongst the youth who were present. And we had to share project ideas on what can be done to advance these initiatives in local community. So I think one of the ways to really advance capacity building in youth in addressing for international cooperation is still workshops and seminars and dialogues like this one, and also forming, most important, networks in which these young people can collaborate together. I will be happy if after this weekend, I know DialogueOn is already a network and ODF is already a network, but if we can have another thing in which we can collaborate and share ideas more, because what Marcel can have in the Dominican Republic, it can be implemented in Cameroon, and what can be implemented in Cameroon can be implemented in the Dominican Republic. And sometimes we may not have those ideas until we share them. So I really try to say we have to encourage forming networks amongst young people, because after all the knowledge and all the capacity building, what they have to do is implement this knowledge. And what is needed to implement knowledge is ideas. And sometimes you get an idea from somebody and it is really implementable where you are. So that's what I would propose. Thank you.
I'd like to add a little bit and build a little bit on what Destiny just shared. We had a workshop here last May, and we had that with the support of Wellington College International. I don't know if you guys have heard of Wellington College. Well, Wellington College is like a very top-notch education entity in the UK. And the head of sustainability of Wellington College, she participates in COP because they like to have presence in COP to make sure that people are aware of their programs. They are very focused on like the sustainability, well-being, like their methodology, their way of teaching. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting like some echo.
No, it's all good. They're just a participant. If we can keep ourselves muted when we join, that would be fantastic. Go ahead. There you are.
Okay, yeah. And so what happened is that I've met this lady. Her name is Ana Romero. She's the head of sustainability. And I met her because she's from Mexico. So I have some colleagues that are Mexican and they work for the OLAG, which is the Latin American Observatory for Climate. And one day we were just sitting at a table and we were trying to have lunch. We were so done with COP. It was like the day before everyone flew back to their countries. So we were trying to have like this debriefing. Everyone was like so tired, so exhausted. And we were just, talking, seeing what everyone's doing, what everyone feels like they want to do. And I was like, oh my God, with our agenda item, we didn't move forward. I don't know what I'm going to do. This is so frustrating. I want to figure something out so that I can implement ACE, etc. And so from that very informal conversation, we realized that all four of us had the technical capacity to come up with something. But also Anna, because she works at Wellington, she was able to identify that Wellington could approve funding if she would go and provide her technical expertise to a developing party. And so the girls from the OLAG said, okay, well, we have sufficient material that we can then put forward to add to the methodology that Anna already has. And I'm like, okay, so my government entity, we have a goal in our NDC that's for the 2025 revision, and I need to make sure that I have training for X amount of people. So what happened at that table is, let me tell you, we came up with a concept note of a workshop for a multi-stakeholder engagement on action for climate empowerment. Like I tell you, we were sitting at a table having like snacks, like fries and kebab or whatever. And we came up with a concept note. And then when Anna went back to her country, she presented the idea to Wellington, and they said yes. What I did is that here on my side, I reached out to an NGO that I know has a partner with an academia. And so I reached out to them and I said, okay, well, we have this idea. We have this person that has technical capacity. They can come. It's not going to cost you any money. But if you could please provide the rooms so that we would have where to have the workshops, then that would be great. So the university gave us the classroom to have the workshop. And then the NGO, because the NGO is funded by a private sector entity that has a lot of funding, they paid for the catering. So everyone chipped in with a little thing that we have, and we were able to provide training for like almost 100 people. And we had 2 workshops in two different days. We had like the same workshop because it's an initial stage type of thing, but it was the same workshop today. We had really multi-stakeholder participation because we had people that were like directors, but we also had students, but we also had teachers. It was a really good experience, and I think it's a really good success story of international cooperation where everyone just put forward, whatever they had. Because here in the DR, then I made sure to get the classrooms, to get the catering. I made sure to get the invitation sent out on time, follow up for people to come. It was a great experience because then what happened is that I am closer to my goal in the NDC. Wellington checked their goal for providing support, and the ladies at OLAC then were able to present the work that they put forward as a deliverable for the work. So everybody won. Everybody was happy about this experience. And this is why I say that just reaching out, having a very clear idea of what it is that you are looking for can really help you move forward. Sorry if that took much of the time, but I really felt like it was appropriate to share the experience.
I completely agree. And what actually the point of this is also to share stories of success and failure, but also of success. And actually, we will get the most out of this dialogue from sharing your experiences that you've had of what's gone well.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, go for it, definitely.
Yeah, I just want to say one of the reasons we have in this program is because I reached out to Susanna. Like Marcel saying, I reached out to her, and I didn't know her before, but I just went online and I said I just had to type like international cooperation, and I had to see a list of people who are addressing the subject of international cooperation. So I reached out to quite a lot, but Susanna didn't even respond. But I had to write under a comment on one of our posts and say, okay, I left you an inbox. Can you check and get back to me? And she was very excited about the initiative. And so that's why we're partnering and we're having this now. So it's just to say, reaching out. If you have an idea as a young person, you just don't see that and say, okay, I'm going to develop this idea out of the blue. So you have to reach out to people who you think can work that idea with you. If you have a solution on something, reach out to the people who you think are competent. Okay, so that's it. Thank you very much.
No, thank you for reaching out. It's fantastic. And we love to receive inputs from other people, and we love to see your ideas. We come up with these DialogueOn ideas and the topics, but we are always open to suggestions. So for our audience here today and anyone who's watching in hindsight, please let us know what you want to hear to talk about. We also send a feedback form out after this event. So perhaps, Destiny, you mentioned people asking questions or sharing their network or sharing their ideas. Perhaps if anyone has anything like that, the form it doesn't shut, it's always open, but we can check it regularly and please input things like that, and then we can discuss them at further DialogueOn events. That would be great. And as I suppose, as a young person in some ways, I completely agree with the comments that both Marcel and Destiny are making, that you need to reach out and make those networks, because otherwise you can feel very isolated and very disillusioned, especially if, for example, like my school and university isn't particularly forward thinking in terms of climate change. And so it's really positive to have these experiences with you guys here today, to realize that there are people out there that care as much as I do. And that's a fantastic opportunity. So thank you to both of our speakers and our audience here today. I have a little follow-up question maybe for Messiel. Of course, we were talking so much today about international cooperation, and quite a couple of things that came up at SP60 was how to then translate that down to a more local level. and how to actually, we talked a lot about implementation, that was the focus at the moment. But how do you think some of the things that we agree or that we discuss can actually make a real impact? You talked about your projects, you talked about the projects just then, with the catering and the event holding. Do we do more of that? Will that be enough in some ways?
Well, when we are speaking about climate, because climate is such a wide subject, it doesn't matter what you do, it's never going to be enough to satisfy you if you have the passion, if you have like the advocacy profile to do these things. But you know, these races where they put like the babies and they're crawling and one comes first and one comes last. So even if they're crawling, they are still moving forward. So baby steps will move you forward. It's not about one single action that is going to help you like tackle all goals. And this is something that I want to say, addressing the comment that is made in the chat about that some young people are not wanting to participate and how to call them to participation. The key to make sure that people are willing to participate and that are empowered is the fact that every action counts. It doesn't matter if it's just one person. One person can and will make significant difference if this person wants to do it. And I speak very, very convinced about this because I am living proof of that. I can make a difference and I actually have made a difference. So just forgetting or putting on the side a little bit about the climate stress aspect of it all, because I think that sometimes sort of caps the contribution of young people. Well, they say, well, what am I going to do? That's not going to make a difference. Anyways, we're going to be depending on fossil fuels, et cetera, et cetera. No, but you can make a difference in a lot of different aspects of a lot of different things. I don't know, get your country's NDCs, read it through, read the pluriannual planning plan of your country and find ways of where you can contribute, because something that oftentimes I see is that people are sitting waiting to be told what they can do. But as Destiny was saying, you can reach out so long as you have an idea of what it is that you are looking for. And if you don't have an idea of what it is that you are looking for, but you do want to contribute, then also reach out and say, okay, these are my capacities. How could this benefit something? How could this contribute? And you don't only have to go to a government entity. You can go to a local NGO. You can go to a private sector entity, you know, but I do think that the call comes from within ourselves. If we really do want to take action, then we will do it.
Thank you for the inspiration. That's the word. I forgot the word a second. I was like, thank you for the inspiration. It's invaluable, I think. And you make a massive point in that you just need to get up and do it. And you're right, it's a process. It's people working together. There's a reason we say cooperation, not just international. And there's a reason we say dialogue, not just Q&A, or we say interventions. We have these first dialogues before we even start negotiations for that very reason. And also, I think, can I add something more? I don't speak from as much experience as either of our speakers, but I think it's also important to remember that the people that you're emailing are human. They're normal people that are working as hard as they have, that have their background and their passion. And chances are you will send a lot of emails, but also sometimes you'll have some really positive interactions and you'll meet some fantastic people that might inspire you down a path that you didn't know before. Maybe similar to Destiny, I met Susanna through working as an intern here, and then because of that, in the last 6 months, my life has completely changed. My interests have changed. So that's a fantastic insight. Okay, I wanted to wrap up at sort of 6:15, but at about 15:15 for lots of people. So I don't keep you for your evenings. Do either of our Destiny or Marcial, do you have a final closing word? You've both said incredibly powerful presentation.
Sure.
You want to say a final like parting line for us that we can remember? Maybe Destiny, you go first.
Yeah, sure. I would like to say I talked about the issue of inclusivity, and I want to say it is in the hands of non-state actors, local people from the grassroots, and youths like you, young people like you who are watching us right now, to get involved in the issues that really matter. It has been past long time. We depend only on governments to solve the issues of our time. So I'm encouraging every young person listening to this now. What you have to do is, even if you're not included in opportunities and your government neglects or your school or whatever neglects the issues you want to work on, you can include yourself by reaching out to other people around the world who have similar interests as you. They say the world is a global village, and we have opportunities which are enormous out there. You know, the internet is there not just for us to go out and watch videos and go on TikTok and all that. It's an opportunity to get in contact with the people who have like interests like you. Try to volunteer with organizations and civil society actors in your community. If you're interested in public affairs, get to a local politician. Try to say, okay, let's start this project together. Whatever project you're doing, can I get involved? That's how you include yourself. And it's not just an aspect of waiting on somebody to call you in and you work with them. No, it's all about you taking the initiative. So my encouragement for everyone watching this right now on the live stream on Facebook or through Zoom is include yourself in the process of change. Include yourself in the process of change in your community. Whatever is your interest, whatever is your burden, whatever challenges you are facing, try to include yourself. There are always people out there. Let me tell you, there are enormous opportunities out there. There are people out there who are always looking for you, looking for someone of your talent, someone of your drive, to work with and get things done. So my encouragement to you is to include yourself, reach out to people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Destiny, and also to your foundation for partnering with this event. Please, I really encourage everyone to check out the work of Destiny's foundation. He does a fantastic job, and he covers things that ODIF couldn't. So if you're more interested in this international cooperation topic, please reach out to Destiny and ask him any questions that you have as well. I'm sure he would be happy to help. I'm saying that on your behalf, but I'm sure he would. So do you have any final closing lines? I know you gave a very powerful comments at the end there. But do you have a minute?
Me for the closing? Yeah. Well, I just wanted to say, based on what I saw in the chat, I think that this dialogue really got the attention of the right people. I see a lot of people asking. I saw a lot of people asking really interesting questions and trying to find ways of having proper engagement at their local area. So what I would say is that all they need to do is keep moving forward with that same passion and that same drive to try and knock on the right doors. And I also want to thank you guys for organizing this dialogue. I know that taking the time of organizing these type of events, reaching out, making sure that you have the proper speakers, publishing everything on time, making sure that you have the people. I know that it requires a lot of work, and sometimes you feel like you're not doing enough. But I think that getting into the minds and the hearts of the people that were here today was really a very smart move. So I appreciate you guys for pulling through and putting this event together.
You beat me to the thank you, so I wanted to thank you first. Thank you everyone for joining as well. That's the one other thing we haven't mentioned is thank you for our audience. We spend our time, we could sit here and chat for hours, probably us three. But it really helps that we have more people speaking and more people sharing their insights. And thank you to everyone who asked a question. That is the reason why we continue running these events like this, is to bring people on board in a virtual platform where we can discuss issues and solutions, when we can work together to produce a dialogue out of this. Okay, thank you for both our speakers. As I mentioned, your insights have been beyond interesting. And please, everyone, follow up. Please feel free to email us on our email. Thank you very much for bearing with me. There is only me running this event, so I haven't had a chance to be able to send things like the newsletter to our group, to the chat of the meeting. But this will all be in a follow-up email after the event, along with a transcript of this of our speakers' presentations and any other material that they can get to us. I hope you all enjoyed the dialogue. Please stay tuned for more events. We run once a month through the summer now. So there should be one in July. We will let you know as and when we have that organized. There is also a feedback form after this event, so please share your ideas from further dialogue topics. We picked them a couple weeks beforehand, so we haven't got our July one sorted, so any input would be fantastic. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and yeah, please feel free to leave the Zoom. This will stay on Facebook. It will stay as a recording, so you can access this on Facebook if you want to go back to anything that our speakers have said. But thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Everyone.